Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of So In Outdoors. We greatly appreciate your viewership. Thanks for clicking on our video and taking the time out of your day to see what we're up to. Today, I want to talk to you about a little thing I call the pre-spring push. And what that is a time of year, basically right before spring starts to kind of get going. And when we're kind of getting towards the tail end of winter, days are getting longer and we're starting to get a little bit more stable weather from time to time. But that pre-spring push only lasts just a few days. It may happen a couple times in that transition from late winter to early spring. We get multiple days in a row of warm weather. And when I say warm, relatively for the time of year, high 40s, low 50s, sometimes even up into the mid to upper 50s. But the most important thing is that our lows don't get too low. When that happens, our water temperatures don't fall overnight as much, and our water temperatures will maintain and stay warmer throughout the night when we have those warmer nights. Like I said, days are getting longer. Things are just kind of slowly getting there. So what happens? We get 3 or 4 of those days in a row, warm weather, things are stable, and the fish, or a good majority of them, will just flood the bank. You'll be fishing areas where you've been catching them over the wintertime in kind of their wintertime staging patterns, suspended areas, fish that have been related to the bottom but out a little bit deeper, and they will be gone. And you're like, where'd they go? I can tell you where they went. They went up the bank, and they are in the dirt. They move up super shallow. Now there's a couple reasons for this. One, the water is warming, it's getting things active, the fish move up there to get warmer themselves. 2, it's to feed. So in the wintertime, their metabolism is much slower, they're not eating as often. As things warm up, they get a little bit more aggressive, they feed a little bit more. So what the warmer water does in these shallow areas, it's going to warm up faster. Sometimes you'll have a little color in the water, which also warms that water up a little quicker. But most importantly, it's getting the bait active, it's getting the crawfish active, and those fish will push up there to feed. They'll be there for multiple days as long as the weather maintains and stays steady. As soon as that next cold front comes through, buddy, they are gone. They'll be right back out to where, the areas you were catching them over the winter. Get another little nice, steady, even stretch of weather that's level-headed. They'll be back up on the bank again a lot of times. Now, still, you hear this from me a lot. We're not going to deviate far from the channel. Fish are not going to want to make long distance moves in cold water. They really don't want to do it at all, in all honesty. And that's why I found myself watching the river channel, looking at deeper water access a lot more, no matter what time of year, but especially this time of year. So still going to focus on areas that are close to deep water. I'm going to be looking at flats that lead maybe into spawning pockets. Talking main lake, flat points, secondary points that are flat in creek arms, ones that kind of fork and go back and you got a pocket on each side and a real flat point out front. Perfect places, especially when you have deep water access in the mouth of those pockets. And I'm going to attack those with just your standard, kind of run-of-the-mill gear. I'm going to throw a flat-sided crankbait, something of that nature, and a good old jerkbait. Cast a jig and drag it real slow. So that is one area I'm going to focus on. Flat points, main lake or secondary. Any flats that are kind of close to the river channel, but predominantly I'm focusing on points that have deep water access. The second thing that I focus on, and this is a great time of year for this pattern to really work, and that is riprap. Riprap typically indicates, some 45-degree angle sloping banks, a little bit steeper banks a lot of times. I'm going to look for riprap that has some deeper water close by. Choke points at bridges are huge this time of year because you have fish that will push up and they'll just sit in these choke points, and they're feeding on shad that are moving in and out, bait fish, bluegill, crappie, whatever, that are moving in and out of these little choke point areas. So I really focus on choke points, but the riprap gets the crawfish up there in the rocks. They start getting a little active, but what happens is the rocks warm up from the sun, and they put off a little radiant heat and warm that water up a little bit. Therefore, you might get a degree or two more up in the rocks there. But that is a key this time of year, to focus on that riprap bite as well. Look for the nuances in the riprap. If the riprap comes out a little farther in an area, or maybe makes a little point, or it gets a little shallower in an area, or the size of the riprap changes, those can be key things. Now, when you get a bite, slow down. Now, I don't mean put your spinnerbait down or put your crankbait down and pick up a jig or something and drag it. I just mean make multiple casts. Don't touch your trolling motor until you make 3, 4, 5 casts to the same general area. Because this time of year, these fish are still somewhat grouped up. And when you catch one, you can typically catch multiples. So when you do get into an area where you get a few bites, slow down. That is probably the biggest mistake that I think most anglers make this time of year, is when they get a bite, they start analyzing where the bite came from, and they want to go run to another part of the lake and duplicate it. A lot of times it's not about the available cover, it's about the water temperature, the water color, and the bait. So keep that in mind, that if you do get a bite, cast around, because there's probably some more there. So that is the pre-spring push. It's a short window. It's actually probably going on right now. We've had stable weather here for a few days. We got a cold front coming in this weekend, and those fish are gonna skedaddle right back out, and I probably missed it. But it is what it is. So, but keep that in mind. Next set of warm days, if your fish disappeared on you, go to the bank, because that's where they went. I can promise you that. Guys, once again, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all the support. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave us a comment. It is my understanding that those things are important when you got a YouTube channel. So thank you for making those happen for us. We greatly, greatly appreciate your support. Y'all have a good day.